More than 22 million jobs have been lost during the current pandemic and the resulting recession. But what you must realize right now is that there are ways to increase your job security and even your income during these trying times. Now, let's flow. 3 ways to optimize your job during a recession. Welcome to Dancing with Life podcast. I'm Sage Flo, here with you on Sage Wisdom Wednesday to share stories of how everyday heroes dance with life to change their own lives and make the world a better place. Here, we're going to be exploring what to do if you're feeling that your job is at risk. Listen, I understand how this is a tough time for so many people in the world, especially in the workforce. Many people have lost jobs. People are filing for unemployment at historic rates. Many people are struggling and worried about the jobs that they do have. And there are the people that are entering into the job market, wondering what their employment future will look like, especially since the world around us is changing so much. I'll share a story with you about Michael Jordan shifting his approach after changing sports that will be helpful for you. He didn't lose his job, but the way he approached it is a great way to think about when your own job may be at risk. And you'll hear a few tips on what to do to strengthen your job security. In fact, you can actually increase your financial and job security even during down economic times. Michael Jordan wasn't worried about losing his job, but he made a deliberate move, a career shift in moving from basketball to baseball. Now, when he decided his return to basketball, he needed to think about what made him special in the sport in the first place. About 25 years ago, NBA agent David Falk and his right-hand man, Curtis Polk, received an unexpected call from Michael Jordan for them to fly to Chicago to meet him at his house. It wasn't unusual for Jordan to make these arrangements with his 2 most trusted business advisors. After about 2 weeks of practicing at the Chicago team's training facility, Jordan wanted to get Falk and Polk's input on a major decision that he was leaning towards: returning to the NBA after retiring in 1993 and playing minor league baseball for a little more than a year. Jordan always sought advice from his close circle of advisors, including the Bulls. In fact, in the days leading to Jordan's meeting with Falk and Polk, he wanted to talk through about his desire to get back to basketball at the highest level, and he spoke about it with his coach, Phil Jackson. They even started to negotiate how many games that he might play. At first, Jordan wanted to return in the postseason. Jackson countered him to come back with 20 games left in the regular season. And then they went back and forth before settling on 17. But one thing was clear: Jordan was more eager to make a comeback during the regular season, and so he called for the final huddle with Falk and Polk, who both arrived not knowing what their client had in mind. For hours at Jordan's house, they discussed the cons. What if he fell below expectations? What if he struggled in his comeback? Luckily, Jordan focused on the pros, how he could make an incredible comeback because of his talent and dedication. Ultimately, Jordan stayed the course and shared that he wanted to return. Though he had liked playing baseball, He wasn't nearly as good as a baseball player as he was a basketball player. And so he was ready and willing to enjoy coming back to basketball. He was having a great time with the national pastime. He liked the camaraderie with other players and the fact that there was a lot less fanfare around him in baseball. He had been working hard to get better at baseball, but there was a strike that season and he was itching to play sports. And so he thought seriously about returning to baseball. Though his body had changed, even though his drive had not. When Michael Jordan retired from basketball and played professional baseball, he had to learn different moves for a different sport. He had to develop different parts of his body, such as different muscles for baseball. He really had to bulk up, particularly in the upper body and the shoulders. And those are things that weren't necessarily compatible to him just stepping out on the court and stepping quickly with movements and flow. When he returned to basketball, he made it in time for the playoffs, though his conditioning wasn't there and his team was defeated. This was in part because he couldn't support the other players as he had done before when he was at his prime shape for basketball. He wasn't at the top of his game. Although he hadn't played an NBA game over a year and a half, Jordan played well upon his return. He even made a game-winning jump shot against Atlanta in his fourth game back. And then he went on to score 55 points in the next game against the Knicks at Madison Square Garden. Boosted by his comeback, the Bulls made a 13-4 run to make the playoffs and advance to the Eastern Conference semifinals against the Orlando Magic. At the end of Game 1, Orlando's Nick Anderson stripped Jordan from behind, which led to a game-winning basket for the Magic. He later said, "Jordan didn't look like the old Jordan. Boy, was he wrong to challenge someone like Jordan who would rise to the challenge and rise to the occasion." He responded by scoring 38 points in the next game, which Chicago won. Before the game, Jordan decided that he would resume to his former number 23. He averaged 31 points per game in that series. Think about that. Someone who stepped away from the game for a year and a half. However, Orlando won the series in 6 games. But Jordan was freshly motivated from the defeat, and he trained aggressively for the 95-96 season. He led the league in scoring and won the league's regular season and All-Star Game MVP award. Jordan took an honest look at where he needed to improve the most. And so, he worked on personal training to rebuild the muscles that would help his game. Jordan put in individual work to further regain his offensive rhythm. He organized shooting drills and one-on-one games with teammates, and he even invited top players to play at a mini camp set up exclusively for him, even though he was shooting the movie Space Jam, in which he starred in. At the mini camp, Jordan would play basketball even after long days of shooting. Jordan took the pain of what the playoffs defeat caused him and worked even harder to grow from the experience. Now, the upshot is, even though you're not Michael Jordan, you must be honest with yourself about your prospects, about your current condition, and about where you can improve. If you're already feeling the fear during this recession, be honest with yourself on where you can increase your financial and job security. And that takes place by working hard and growing from the experience. Even if you transition from that job, you'll build the skills to help you in the next venture. This may not be easy, but dig deep if you know it to be worth it. The world economy is changing in profound ways as people adjust to a new reality of the world after the pandemic. The way that businesses operate will change and have been changing. How can you change with them? In Dancing with Life, the point is to help you move through crisis and challenge by dancing, both literally and figuratively, with your life. We reach into the deep history of dance to help you bring out your inner strengths. For Sage Wisdom Wednesday, we focus on Qi Gong Dance. This dance derived from a blend of Tai Chi, Kung Fu, and other martial arts. It uses vigorous steps as well as focused movement. Now, like many dances, you can do this individually or in groups. In a recession or a crisis, many jobs become vulnerable. You can step in to defend yourself against being laid off. Use a combination of awareness and preparation to retain control of your career, regardless of the economy. The idea of the Qi Gong Dance is something that we want you to take away from Sage Wisdom Wednesday. Gaining wisdom through working with others. Wisdom is a part of Chinese martial arts, and that means that it's applied with internal power. And it's all about unity, the joining of the yin and the yang, focusing the mind on the movements of the form. Helps to bring about a state of mental calm and clarity that is important in a crisis. The other part of the Tai Chi dance, or Qi Gong, refers to a mixture of martial arts styles. But Kung Fu in particular refers to martial arts that are learned through training and practice. That is, through wisdom. So using the idea of the Qi Gong dance, you can learn to get into the spirit of preparation and the wisdom that comes from control. Here are some tips on using the spirit of the Qi Gong dance to prepare yourself for a recession or an economic downturn. Always be aware of how your mindset affects your work. Understand how your company makes and spends money. Look for ways to add value that are always ways to increase operational efficiency. If you're an employee who significantly contributes to income or savings, it will help your employer see the overall value that you're contributing to the company. See what ways you can add so much value to the company. If you can't identify ways in which you can contribute to success, ask for more responsibilities and ask if there are ways that you can contribute even more. Foster an open communication with your boss. Be proactive with your manager, especially when the business hits a rough patch. Ask how you can help, how you can contribute in a different reality, especially when the markets and sales are taking a tumble. Be prepared to outline your value in helping out during a downturn. Now, if you're sure that layoffs are coming, what do you have to lose by trying harder than before? Take the steps to keep the lines of communication open between you and your employer. I know that this isn't always easy, and you don't want to come off as insincere or desperate. Be business-minded, speaking through your plans in a prepared way, using bullet points perhaps to suggest change or to describe how you can contribute more rather than desperately begging for job security. Discuss how your efforts can help the company rebound. Offer ways to save money that do not involve layoffs. And be open to alternative arrangements. In pay or in hours, be flexible. Again, if the company is struggling, think about it from their perspective. What ways you can help out more. Companies need to do what they can to survive. And if you build a case of why you're contributing or why you're important or what counts in a company, adding great value, you'll be in a much better position and can even grow with more opportunities. So here, I like to propose a sage action that asks you to reframe a situation. Be like Michael Jordan returning from baseball. Reframe your game. Practice this fun reframe game just like any sport by turning a disadvantage into an advantage, from defense to offense. Remember that the power of questions and the better quality of questions that you ask yourself will lead to a better quality of your life. When you find yourself asking a question where you don't like where it's leading to, ask the reverse and ask an empowering question. Here, you can hold a sage pose and ask yourself the complete opposite. For example, if you're worried that you won't win the game and you're asking yourself, what if I lose? Then it'll all be over and then I'll fail. You see how that's leading down the negative rabbit hole? And if you find yourself asking these negative questions, strike a sage pose and ask, what if I win? What if I win by 20 points? What would that look like? Notice the physiology will impact the story that you tell and change the strategy that you employ. It's all connected. Notice the difference in energy when you're like, what if I do? What if I lose? Versus, what if I win? How much can I win by? How much can I enjoy the challenge? What if we redefine failure as an opportunity? Create your job affirmation. We can win at this together. We can win together. Share it with your friends and family on social media. Share with them and inspire each other. You can even ask, what ways are they stepping up for their jobs, their businesses? What challenges are they facing and how they're overcoming it? You see, by sharing with each other, you can inspire each other. Now, since this podcast is called Dancing with Life, we want you to think about moving forward in collaboration with others. So let's also look at the Qi Gong Dance, which I mentioned earlier. The thing that makes the Qi Gong so useful is its potential to adapt to the practitioner's specific goals and needs. In doing the Qi Gong Dance, you incorporate the moves of martial arts, using your arms and hands as if you were practicing Kung Fu. You can also use your legs. You will also be using your legs in different ways as if you're doing a graceful lunge. It's all about intentionality and setting that tone. You see, Qigong demonstrates your poise and your spirit, your contained energy. So let's use Qigong as a way of engaging with others in true communication with grace and determination. There's different moves that you can show different interpretations of, which I'll get to in other videos as well. But channel that intentionality by being graceful, fluid, by tapping into the yin and the yang and finding the balance. So go ahead and share a video of what comes up for you with a Qigong pose or a sage pose. That by standing in that physiology, You're activating your inner wisdom, your inner sage. So share a video or a post, photo with friends or family, or even tag a partner who could use more inspiration, and you can share with each other the wisdom that we all have within. Tag @SageFlow and Inner Sage and share with us how this makes you feel. Thanks so much for being with me on Dancing with Life. I'm Sage Flo, and I look forward to spending time with you tomorrow for Architect Triumphant Thursday, when we look at adaptability. Until then, flow on.